So in this video, we're going to be going over some really awesome information, some information you probably never heard before, never thought of before, and it's really going to help you out with catfishing. Now, we're going to be using this on the Sandy Cooper rig. This is going to apply to more than just the Sandy Cooper rig, so if you tie this Carolina rig or a couple other rigs, stay tuned because all of the secrets and tips that I'm about to share with you are going to apply to those as well. Alright, so as we put this Sandy Cooper rig together, for those of you who don't know how to put it together, you'll know how to put it together after this video. But for those of you that are already putting this together and already been using it, this is going to be some awesome tips for you guys. So, starting out, right out the gate, everyone knows you need to put your sinker on your main line. Now this line right here is going directly to the fishing pole. And then you're going to want to put a bead on here to protect your knot. And that pretty much is all you're going to be doing to the main line, take to the fishing pole. Now, you're going to want to take this barrel swivel. Now, after this is where it starts getting really interesting. You're going to want to take a barrel swivel and tie you a knot. And I'm just going to tie the clinch knot here. Alright, so now that's the main line. Now what you want to do is get you a leader line. But now here's where things get interesting, because when I first started getting into Carolina rig and Sandy Cooper rig, I wanted my sinker to be pretty good distance from the hook, and so I figured the further it was away from the hook and I started to raise up, the fish started to raise up on the bait, it would be less likely to feel the bait at a greater distance away. Now that does make sense, and it is probably a little bit true, but I found out that that doesn't matter. But I did find two really good advantages to making a short leader line. So I started out making about 2-foot leader lines, and I started working my way down to see if I could find any difference. Well, I did find a difference, and it's going to be better than what you would expect. So now I generally tie about 1 foot to 10 inches. So I'll cut off roughly close to 1 foot of leader line here, and after I'm getting untied and everything, we're going to end up with a little bit less than 12 inches. Now, why is this going to be good? Well, there's two reasons that this is good. This sinker is now much closer to the hook, and as a kid I learned that this was probably not a good thing. I wanted to keep it farther away. But how does a catfish bite? So once I started learning how a catfish bit, I started learning the way they approach the bait, the way they take off with the bait, everything about how they target a bait and end up with it completely down their stomach. And that's when I found out that it doesn't really matter. If they want that bait, they're going to take it no matter if the weight was all the way up against the hook. And let me tell you why I say that. Because you can take a catfish, and any fish really, is very opportunistic, meaning they want to get the bait, and if they find a bait, they're going to take it. They're going to take that opportunity. And why are they going to take that opportunity? Because they can't just go anywhere and just grab something to eat. They have to get it while they can. And you take like a dog, for instance. So if you have a dog and you have this very clean steak, right? Well, the very clean steak, and you hand it to the dog, he's going to what? He's going to gobble it up, right? Now, if you take that very clean piece of steak and you was to be bringing it out to your dog, but you was to drop it on your way out, and it got dirt and lint and mud and just hair and all kinds of stuff all over it, do you think that dog is going to say, no, I don't want that steak now? Absolutely not. He's going to take it and he's going to eat it with all that stuff on there. And that's the same thing with these catfish. They're going to take it, and they're going to take it and eat it, no matter if they get any extras. Now here's a little clip for you guys to show you proof that this, and just show you how the catfish bites. So after seeing that, I learned a couple things from that. So what I learned is that a catfish, for one, is not approaching the bait looking for the bait. And what I mean by that is he's not looking with his eyes for the bait. So when I first got this Sandy Cooper rigged up, I would put this bobber pretty far away from my hook. Well, because I was afraid that he would see it and feel it and things, and it would scare him away. Well, I found out that you can actually put this insanely close to your hook, and it doesn't matter. Because you see the way the catfish bit there. What was important about that was when he approached the bait, he's standing over the bait, right? Well, he has eyes on the side of his head, and they're more on the top of the head than they are on the bottom. It is literally impossible, physically impossible, for the catfish to be able to see the bait directly below him or directly in front of him like that. Because of the way his eyes are positioned on his head, he cannot physically see that bait. So that's out of the question. He's not seeing the bait once he gets up on it, right? Well, the next thing is, what about when he feels it or touching it? Again, look at how when his tentacles. Now here's what they do. They'll go around and they'll pick it up on their scent trail and they'll follow it. But once they get close, what was that catfish doing? He was taking his old whiskers and he was touching around, feeling for that bait. The second old whisker came in contact with that bait, he instantly knew that that's what he wanted, gulped it up, didn't think about it, and took off. Now, what happened when he gulped all that up? He grabbed some extra stuff, didn't he? He grabbed grass, he grabbed mud, soot, all kinds of stuff, and he didn't sit there and say, well, I need to get all this out of my mouth before. No, he took it and took off with it because what? He got that bait, but he did get some extra stuff. It didn't matter, did it, to him? Because he got what he came here for. So when he swoops this up and he grabs some of this bobber, do you think that he's going to say, well, I don't want that, even though that what I came there for is in my mouth? Absolutely not. Going back to the dog, all that hair, all that stuff, all that mud, and all over that steak, they still want it. It doesn't matter to them. All animals are the same way. When they find something, they're going to take it no matter what all's on it. Even as a kid, if you're a baby or you have a little kid, and they drop suckers on the ground, they drop their food all over the ground, and it gets dirt and all kinds of stuff all over it, right? Well, they're not made to automatically think that's bad, I don't need that, right? They'll pick it up and start eating it. We as adults, we as parents, we teach our kids that, oh, no, don't eat that, it's got dirt and stuff all over it. We teach them, we create a habit for them that it has to be clean, right? Well, they're not designed that way, and they won't be designed that way, so it doesn't matter. So they can't see it, and if they feel it, touch it, it doesn't matter to them as long as they have that bait in their mouth. So, getting into the hook. Now, what you want to do is, if you're using circle hooks, and specifically the offset circle hooks like these, with the eye of the hook tilted back, you want to come in from the front of the hook. That's important. Now, what's not important is the hook, or the way you tie it. Now, I have put this to the test. Everyone tells you that a snell knot is the best thing there's ever been for a circle hook. Well, if that makes you feel comfortable, if that makes you feel confident, then go with it by all means. Do not go, I'm not telling you that there is a good knot, because I tie both. I tie the improved clinch knot here, and I'll tie the snell knot, and I'm still going to be doing that for a while to see if I can tell a difference, but I can't tell a difference in it, so I don't think that the knot matters. As long as you come in from the front of the hook, that's what matters. Okay, so now here's some bonus tips, but before we get into the bonus tips, this is what you're going to look like. So for those of you that don't know how to tie the Santee Cooper rig, you're going to have your weight, your bead, your barrel swiveless necks, your leader line, and like I said, we've got about 10-inch leader line here, and you have a peg float. You'll peg it off, run the line through it, peg it off, and we're just a couple inches here from the peg float to the hook. Our bait's going to be picked up plenty high enough off the ground. We don't have to worry about it not being picked up. The fish can't see it once they get up to it, and they don't care what it feels like, looks like, whatever, tastes like, as long as they got that bait in their mouth. So, and a really, really good advantage to having this with a short leader line is, for number one, you're going to be able to cast a lot further. Having a shorter leader line, not having all that extra stuff hanging around there, you're going to be able to cast much further. But now you have this on the bottom. Here the sinker is positioned here, and the bobber is holding it up. But now when a fish comes and picks this up, and you have your main line up here attached to your fishing pole, and he picks it up. Alright, check that out. Look at that. He's picked it up. Now look at the bow in that. Now you got a pretty good bow in there, but that's on a 10-inch leader line. Now when you go to set the hook, do you see that rise up? You had to get up to that gap. That's the thing. Whenever the fish picks up off of it, he's taking off with it, and you go to set the hook, you're having to pull all that slack out that sinker created out of that bow. So on that 10-inch leader line, even though you still got a bow there, that's not much bow right there. Okay, so now we have, I've tied a knot here, and we put it back about another 8 inches. So what you're going to see here is you're going to see about an 18-inch leader line, which is a typical leader line that you would be tying. But now, check this out. So we have the fish. She's picked up the bait. Our sinker's on the bottom. And now we got our main line here connected to the fishing pole with this hand. And when we go to pull on this, we feel that the fish is taking the line. Look how much slack we have to pick up from that bow. And that's why you're going to miss more fish. Whenever how many times, now think about this, how many times have you went to set the hook and the fishing pole has come plumb back before you start to feel the fish? When you go to set the hook and you get up to about right here, you should start feeling the fish right there. That's when you should start feeling the fish. But when you have that big old bow in your line from that 18-inch 2-foot leader line, when you go to set the hook, you're coming from here, boom, 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 and you actually don't feel it until you're almost straight up with that pole. Why? Because when you have those long leader lines, the disadvantage to that is, for one, you can't cast it that further, and that far, and for two, all that slack that you have to pick up. So here he picks up with it again. You have to come up, and now you finally got a direct pull from the fishing pole to the knot here on the hook once you've picked up all that slack. So think about that. Think about that next time you go to set the hook. Think about how long your leader line is. Think about whenever your bait isn't coming up off the bottom that much. Think about put that thing a little bit closer. Now obviously you want to cut these tags off here. We just sped up it. Didn't cut it off to speed up the video here. But now, so here's some bonus tips for you guys. Okay, so some bonus tips is we're going to talk about the hook. We're going to talk about when you do set the hook on the cats and everything, some things that you need to be looking for. Now, Steve Douglas just released a video last night about fishing for blue cats, drifting for blue cats, and he had hooked in a bait, and the scale of his bait was stuck on the point right there, right? And it caused him to miss a really big fish. Well, so most of you have heard that by now. Make sure that when you hook the bait up, your tip is completely scale free, that is completely exposed, ready to take something on. But now here's 2 more tips for you guys. Now, whenever you hook up a bait, you want to make sure that you don't have all that gap right there that my finger's taking up, even though that hook point is still exposed right there, taken up. Now what happened is, whenever, let me see if I can do this right here for you guys. So a fish picks up this bait, right, and he's wanting to try to get hooked. He can't come down that far because my finger is stopping him from coming down and that hook going through. So he's barely going to get hooked. You're going to be reeling him for a second. Boom, he's going to pop off. Why did he pop off? There was not enough gap. Now, a circle hook is designed to turn and get caught in the corner of the mouth. You guys can vouch for this. I know I can vouch for this. It doesn't always happen, right? Those catfish got big lips on the top and on the bottom of their mouth, and they're pretty wide. So what happens is sometimes it'll get hooked in the bottom or the top of the mouth. And when that happens, there's a lot of lip there, and you need a big gap in that hook to be able to connect up with that. If not, you're going to be real pop. There it comes out. That's one of the reasons why it pops off. So make sure this is clean. Make sure you have this gap down. Now what I try to do is I try to make sure that when I put a bait on here, I do not, let me see if I can get this focused in for you guys. I do not come no higher than about right here with that bait. Why? Because I, number 3, do never ever want my barb to be covered up. So if I have the bait to come all the way up to here, right, my barb, let me do this with this. If I have my bait come up to here, right, my barb is covered up pretty much, right? So I want the bait to come right here. Now I'll show you a clip of what it should look like whenever you got something hooked up right. I hook these things from the bottom lip up to the top nostril, and I have a lot of hook gap exposed. Now the last thing that you want to, the last tip that I can give you about this hook and good hook sets and your bait is that barb right there itself. Now I have made this mistake so many times, and you don't think about it because no one really talks about it that much. Everyone talks about making sure this is clean, make sure your hook point's clean, make sure your hook point's clean, no scales, no scales. Well, guess what? This right here needs to stay clean too. When you tie on a brand new hook, obviously, and you hook a bait up, and it comes down through here, there's nothing going to get caught right there, right? So you're fine. But now what happens is you throw it out there, you lose that bait, you catch a fish, or you rebait. So something has had to come, that whatever you had on there, a shad head, skipjack, chicken liver, whatever it may be, has had to come back up and try to come back out of there. Now when you hook up anything, tries to come up that barb, what's it do? It catches it. And what happens is that starts filling up with stuff and you don't even look at it. And now what happens is, alright, so I'm baitless or whatnot, I'll throw back out there and I hooked up, but my barb is covered up. So I'm basically at that point fishing barbless, and it's very, very hard to see. Again, right here in this little clip I'm about to show you, I had an old piece of bait on there that I didn't get bit on the night before, and I threw it back out. Well, what happened was it had some stuff that got up in there from that fish, from that little shad, and it dried up in there. So I was pretty much barbless at that point. Luckily, I recognized it, as you can see here. But make sure that your hooks are clean. Get all the scales and stuff off of them. I've got something crazy on there. I got it off now. So, really clean and give yourself a lot of hook gap. So yeah, if you guys make sure that you have plenty of gap, make sure this is clean and this is clean, you are going to catch a lot more fish. You're going to start missing a lot less, and you're going to stop feeling that pop come out and boom, there goes the fish, if you make sure all of that goes into play. So now if you have made it this far, well, guess what? You should definitely subscribe to the channel, because that means that you're liking the video, right? Or you've at least found something very interesting. And by the way, that's pretty much it for the video. So congratulations, you have made it to the end of the video. I really, really appreciate that. That means a lot that you've watched this far. And I hope to see you in the next one.